Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Business Podcast, your source for all things business. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres to keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have Lenny Lebovich on the line, and he's founder and the former CEO over at Pre-Brands. Lenny, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So I'm excited to get into today's topic, building a consumer brand. But before we do that, Lenny, let's just start out with what you're doing over at Pre-Brands. Tell us a little bit more of the Pre-Brand story.
So I founded Pre-Brands to basically address what I thought was a consumer need, and that consumer need was kind of greater trust and transparency around the meat that they eat, and providing more information more clearly in a way that the industry was not providing. So we built a business around the idea of we could do a better job by giving consumers what they want on their terms. And I think that that's fundamentally how great businesses get built, is that they think from, let's call it their consumer or their customer backwards, versus, let's call it businesses that, try to basically sell what they have at a market. So that's what we did in the industry. We became the fastest growing brand in the industry for 3 consecutive years, as measured by kind of third-party sources like Nielsen. Had great success. I'd say that we became the leading consumer brand in a category that lacked brands. So it was a fun ride, and I'm glad to be able to share some of that experience with your listeners.
Wow, it's absolutely amazing. And and when you say it's a industry that didn't really necessarily have a brand, I mean, you're so right. I when I look at your packaging and what your company does now, it's like, wow, it just looks better. Like it's a brand. I feel like when you're buying Pre-Brands product is different. What kind of led you to this? Like, so we're talking about building a consumer brand. Like, how did you do it? What was the vision?
So the vision was, so I kind of got involved in this whole food and meat industry by helping a college roommate of mine grow strategically. We bought a business, and we looked at a variety of businesses, which forced me to kind of look at markets and look at growth opportunities. And what I saw was there was this rapid growth in this consumer segment called organic and grass-fed. And I saw what was out there. I was like, man, this is like this consumer, what the consumer wants and what's being provided. There's a huge disconnect. And I knew that the bar was pretty low and there was a way to maybe do that better. So we kind of came at this from the perspective of, okay, let's understand, kind of what the consumer, what's in their minds, what's in their hearts. Let's understand kind of like where their gaps are and kind of what they need and what they're actually getting. And let's figure all that out, and then let's build a business around giving them exactly what they want on their terms. I think that's like that vision of give the consumer what they want on their terms. Once you make that decision, and that's like your, let's call it true north, it pretty much drives every single decision you make in that business. Mm. And I think that's the thing with, and I coach a number of entrepreneurs, typically in food, beverage, and consumer, called Consumer 2.0. And I think that's a real misnomer, is that people kind of view brands as kind of, let's say, a name, a look, a feel, and it is all those things. But fundamentally, I think a brand is a business model. And if something becomes a business model, that means that literally every single thing in your business has to interconnect to that business model. And so that's something I spend a lot of time, with entrepreneurs, helping them think through is, okay, now that we've decided we want to be a brand, how does that inform all of our decisions, from who we hire, how we talk about things, what products we create, which customers we serve or consumers we serve, which suppliers we'll work with, which investors will are a good fit for, what we're about. Like, it just affects everything.
Oh, it's amazing. And I'm a sucker for any story that begins with, well, I was in college and I was helping a college buddy. I mean, and then you build a business from it, and kind of that's the seed of what's grown. Man, I'm a sucker for that all day long. I love it. So that
and another thing. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
A key thing I'd say is that the other thing that I've kind of done is like it's really, really hard if you accept this idea that a brand is something that works from the consumer backwards and it's a business model, it's all interconnected. What I also believe is it's really, really hard to turn a business into something that is not quite that into that. So I've basically spent the last 15 years building businesses with a mindset of from scratch. I want a blank sheet of paper, and I want to basically draw. I mean, I remember, like, I wasn't always paying attention to math, but I remember they said the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. I'm like, so I want to basically draw a straight line between what the consumer wants and what I can provide. It's really, really hard to do that if you have a business that isn't already doing that. You're trying to kind of redirect it and kind of, let's call it, soften its edges and, kind of improve things to do that. So while it's really, really hard to start a business from scratch, I think if you do that, it pays huge dividends later because everything is properly interconnected to execute on the vision of the business.
Man, that's awesome. Couldn't agree more. And so I want to kind of go back in time a little bit to the early days. How did you find, or how did you have that intuition to know what the consumers wanted in that meat segment, if you will? Because I mean, I haven't seen another brand like this, so it's kind of like that. That's not that long ago,
Yeah, so I mean, like literally, like I'm usually accused of being a little too curious, and I go and I just kind of like do basic ethnographies. I like go in stores, and I'd like be watching to see what people do. And there are people that literally get paid to do this. They're called ethnographers. They'll go to parking lots, and auto companies will say, "Hey, go to parking lots and watch what moms do when they have kids, and help us kind of improve our minivan design." So it's like you're watching people because what people say and what people do are often quite different things. So just watch actual in the real world behavior. And I just kind of saw what was happening. I like the environment. I'm like, man, the store environment is not ideal for this. The consumer really doesn't enjoy shopping this. They're kind of trying to figure stuff out. It's confusing. And I'm like, okay, well, how do we kind of address all these things? So that's where it came from, is I'm like, this is right now not the experience that it can be. And how do we change that? And that's also kind of, I think, a key thing is that I think that, the experience is a really big part of it. So you could have a great product, but if there isn't an experience that goes along with it, then it's very easy, I think, to duplicate a great product. You have to, and I say, like, I use the best example of this I've ever seen is Apple, which is I say, like, well, Apple creates great, products, and there are other companies that create great products, but I would argue Apple's products are always superior. And they're like, well, why do you think it is? I'm like, well, because Apple designs from the consumer experience backwards. And I think all the other companies design from the, let's call it engineer, technologist, wouldn't it be cool if, and they design kind of solutions that address that, wouldn't it be cool if it could do this? But the end result is very, very different. So I would say that, I happen to be a pretty loyal Apple fan, and I have all their products, and I always find that it's just super intuitive. It's just like a pleasure to use. And I think that consumers tend to love products and love companies that make their lives easier, and that they can literally say, it's a pleasure to do business with them. It's a pleasure to kind of buy these products. I feel very good about it, because brands are ultimately not intellectual, they're emotional. So there has to be a really, really positive feeling associated with what you're doing for that person. And if that's not there and it's just purely functional benefits, let's call it, the stuff that's in your brain, that's really, really easy to duplicate.
Man, so I'm thinking to myself, so in the early days, you going in and you were like the commando in there doing your reconnaissance on what people were doing in the meat aisle in the store. I mean, that's awesome. I love it. Getting your feet, getting your hands dirty, so to speak, out there in the field, man. Great stuff.
Yeah, you do crazy stuff as an entrepreneur. I think that people like maybe misunderstand that. Is like it's not all sexy, and that's one of the things I'd say is like when I talk to people I want to coach is I ask them, I'm like, well, what's driving you? It's the why, like Simon Sinek on TED Talks kind of talked about that. It's like, what's that fire in the belly? Why is it there? Because this stuff is not always fun. Everyone loves the story at the end where you create a great company and whatever, and there's a huge exit and everyone wants to celebrate it. But there are really, really trying times along the way, and you have to be willing to roll up your sleeves and do stuff you never imagined doing.
Well said. Well said. So, Lenny, if somebody's listening to this and they want to learn more about pre-brands or to connect, I mean, what's the best way for them to do that?
So basically the website is Eat Pre, so EATPRE, and then there are versions of that you can find them on Instagram, whatever, Facebook, all the different kind of social media channels, Pinterest, etc. And they've created quite a following. I think they have really loyal let's call it influencers, whether they're chefs, dietitians, they've created quite a movement behind the brand. So I think if you just look up pre and then maybe whatever pre-brands or pre-beef or pre-grass-fed, you'll see lots of stuff come up.
Fantastic. Well, hey, Lenny, really appreciate you coming on the show today to tell your story and provide tips to the entrepreneurs and business owners out there listening about how to build consumer brands. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget, subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review on the Apple iTunes Store, share this with your friends and family. I mean, do all those great things we do to support our podcasters. I really do appreciate it. And Lenny, thanks again for coming back on the show.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.